Well, welcome to the Kristi Jones Show, where it's all about living your life to the fullest. I'm a life coach, speaker, and business owner in multifamily real estate, and I've had wild success in multifamily housing for over 25 years now. I am so passionate about helping others merge their success and lead a fulfilling life, and I bring it all together right here on this podcast. So join me and let's get started to live your life to the fullest. Well, hey, my friends, happy Thanksgiving to you. This episode is dropping on official Turkey Day. And it's just going to be one of those things that is going to be a nice little add-in to your holiday weekend. Because this is what I'm going to talk about today. You're going to love it. It's going to bring you so much value for, especially right now in the holiday season. But this is dropping on Thanksgiving. So I hope that you are just having like the full belly moment today where we just eat a lot more than we should on this day. But that's the fun part about Thanksgiving, right? It is a really great, like, eat all the family recipes, have the dessert, eat the turkey, take a nap, do all the things. And then maybe you're going to be out for a walk later and you'll be listening to this episode on the Kristi Jones Show. So really quickly, I'm actually in Florida right now recording this episode, and the weather is so beautiful in November in Florida. Wow, it's so nice. It's actually, the weather here is really similar to, I would say, like in San Diego. It's very cool in the morning, cool in the evening, but then, that's 68 to 70 during the day. I mean, that's winter. That's winter on the coast. So it's really nice. And there's all kinds of things going on outside where I'm recording. So there's lawn going on. So just roll with me because the outside noise might kind of come in on this, but that's what's going to make it extra good. Okay. When you hear the lawnmower or the weed eater, just know that I had to pay extra for that. I'm just kidding. So here's the thing. Here's what we're going to dive in today. We're talking about the 3 Gs. I'm dropping the 3 Gs on you in this episode. And the 3 Gs that are really going to, they are three things that can help fuel your success and to keep you thriving through not only the holiday season, but all the time, all the time. And the 3 Gs are this: gratitude, growth, and grit. These three powerful principles. So they're not, like I said, they're not just for right now and as we're wrapping up the year. They're actually tools that you can use all the time to stay focused, energized, that resiliency that I know you have, that we all tap into from time to time. So we're going to talk about that today. I'm going to talk about how gratitude shifts how you think. Gratitude shifts how you think. It shifts your mind. I'm going to talk about how growth, it comes with its fair share of bumps and bruises along the way. We all get a little, but I'll call, like after you work out, your muscles are a little sore. Guess what? Growth gives us a little bit of that along the way, but it's completely worth it. I'm going to talk about that as well. And then we're going to get into grit. I know you've heard that word. I know you know what it means, but I'm going to give you some practical takeaways. Grit is what keeps you going when things feel hard, when things are tough. So I'm going to give you some takeaways, like tools that you can use in your everyday life. And it's really not, like I said, it's not just for the holidays. This is something you can use all year round. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's go. Buckle up, Buttercup, because we're talking about the 3 Gs today. Okay, the first one is gratitude. Gratitude is the secret sauce for your success. I have never, well, I won't say never. Every time I say never, there's always an exception to that. Very rarely do I meet someone that is at such a good place in their life and experiencing success and fulfillment that doesn't have gratitude. That gratitude, that feeling of just being thankful and grateful isn't a part of who they are. It's Thanksgiving when this episode's dropping. And obviously, this is a time when Thanksgiving, everybody pauses at Thanksgiving to say a blessing, to have words of gratitude, to have those thoughts. Maybe they don't verbalize it. Maybe it's just something inside, right? But it's not something that we just kind of take out of the box once or twice a year. We take out of the box during the holiday seasons when we're feeling a bit more grateful as we go into December and, Christmas and all the things. Like, that's a feeling or a thought gratitude is that comes up in the holidays. But really, when you're thriving in your life, when you have like that inner feeling, that glow, that successful feeling, that all of that, that is because you are consistently grateful. So it's truly a secret sauce. It's really the foundation for long-term success in your life. I want to talk about how a daily gratitude practice, how that can elevate your energy. It shifts your energy. It shifts your mind on even how you think about things, like even how you look at things. It totally changes your perspective. And especially when things aren't going the way that you hoped they would go. Gratitude really, like how you do gratitude in your everyday life, like a gratitude practice. I'm super big on there's not a right or wrong way to do things, because the right way is what works for you and is something that you can like mold into your life, something that works into your lifestyle. For some, that can be a gratitude journal. For some, that can be a morning practice of rehearsing and going through the things that they are grateful for, that they are thankful for. It might be something you do in the evening as you wrap up your day. So it's really whatever works for you and really feels right for you. But it's really important to make sure that gratitude is that just being thankful and grateful, even if you're like, this is going really shitty in my life right now. This is really hard. But I promise you that there is a silver lining in any hard thing that I've been through in my life. There is a silver lining. There is still that element of gratitude, that I'm grateful that the problem has arisen. I'm grateful that the hard is what I'm in right now, because I know it's giving me, I'm getting something from this. I'm learning. It might be on the other side of it. It might be as I go through the process, but just to stay in that thought of being grateful is just such a game changer. So here's a couple things. I want to give you a couple maybe relatable gratitude practices if you don't have one. Here's a couple ideas. Two that I've done, or here's one that I've done, a gratitude jar. A gratitude jar, I did this like I would say when we were raising our kids and super busy, right? Like I didn't have time to like do all this extensive writing, but what I could do is every day I had a jar, and every day, and little like took paper, literally nothing fancy, wasn't any cute little note cards you get on Etsy or anything like that. It's literally notebook paper torn into small little squares. And every day I would write something I was grateful for, fold it up, put it in the jar. Next day, what am I grateful for? Something I'm grateful for. And at first, because I was really, really busy in my life, busy season of my life when I decided to do this. And it was really just because I wanted a way to kind of keep my focus on what I was grateful for and to stay in that flow of that. And it was something that I felt like I could do every day. And then I wanted to, at the end of the month, take them out and reread them. It probably would be a good idea to do that maybe at the end of each week to kind of remind yourself. But I chose to do it at the end of each month. So a gratitude jar is like super easy. You don't have to go buy anything. And you probably have something in your kitchen that you can grab and then put into place and make your gratitude jar. I remember there was a time that I was like, hey, everybody write something down that you're grateful for, put it in the jar. But really, I mean, it was with everyone going in different directions. What I was that was hard to like implement with everyone. But what I was really good at was making sure that I did that. So every day I did it in the morning. I would write something down and it went in the jar. And then end of the month, it was really fun to look back at those and to kind of relive the things that I was grateful for. So a gratitude jar is a really easy thing to implement in your home, and it's really fun. The other thing that I like, oh, here's the other thing. I did this other one too. Basically it was like a gratitude tree. I think I was at Hobby Lobby one time and I found this really cool, I just love things that light up. If I just love lamps, I love twinkle lights, I love all of that. And I remember buying this, it's like this white tree, and it was in the fall that I had bought this. So it's like a white branchy tree that you plug in that had lights on it and I could put on the table. And I want to say I had that like in the entryway area of our house. And then I had bought, I don't know, they were like things that you could hang on the tree, but you could write on these little cards with chalk, like a chalk pen. And I bought that, and my idea was same concept as the jar, but now I was going to hang them on the tree, and then like I could see it. It wasn't like tucking it away in a jar. It was like hanging there in the entryway. Like I just really liked that, it being more like visible. So that was really fun. So I called that a gratitude tree, and that was a fun little project to do. So there's a couple ideas that maybe you can try for yourself and give that a try. The next thing, when I was preparing for this podcast, this is what I'm going to do on Thanksgiving. So by the time you hear this, I've already done this. So it's haven't done it yet, but I got the idea yesterday and I'm like, oh, I'm doing that on Thanksgiving. And that's a gratitude wall. So I am going to create something maybe in the kitchen or maybe where we eat our meal in the dining room. And I'm going to get like brown craft paper and, have it in squares. I bet I can find something about that size, note card size, and then make something cute and call it the gratitude wall. And it just ties in with Thanksgiving. I thought really cute. So, and I thought it would be fun for everyone that's coming over for them to write down what they're grateful for and put it on the gratitude wall. So yeah, and then have like push pins, or I might have a magnetic board that's covered in burlap that I feel like I have something like that, but I feel like I can put that together pretty easy. But I'm going to call it a gratitude wall, make it super cute, and then have the note cards that everyone that's coming for Thanksgiving can write down something that they're grateful for and put it on the gratitude wall. So that's my latest idea. So my challenge, I want to, on each of these that I'm going to talk about in the 3 Gs. So right now we're talking about gratitude, but on each of these, I'm going to give you like an action item of something that like you're going to hear this and then something that you can go do. So I'm going to challenge you today. This ties into gratitude. I mean, yeah, you can take one of those ideas and do that too, the jar, the wall, the tree. But here's what that might take you a little bit of time. So I'm into immediate action when we learn something, when we are shifting our mind, when we're kind of trying to focus in or get clarity. I'm about immediate action because I think we spend a lot of time consuming information and reading and getting educated and all that, which is great. But where people generally fall off the wagon is they never freaking implement the things they learn. So it's like pointless to be shoving all this stuff in our brain and we're not doing anything with it. So here's my challenge for you today. I'd like to encourage you to take action on gratitude today, whatever day you're hearing this podcast. And I would like you to text 3 people. Text 3 people today before you go to bed that you're grateful for. Tell them why you're grateful for them. Just see how that's going to make them feel. Don't hold in what you're grateful for. If you're grateful for somebody, let them know. Let them know. If there's something about them that you're grateful for, freely share that information. I don't know why we hold up and try to store all of our compliments. I'm complimenting and telling people what I'm grateful for about them all the time. I've just always done that. I mean, people I meet throughout the day. I'm just, and it's not necessarily, doesn't tie into like being grateful, but like on a compliment standpoint, like if I love somebody's earrings, I'm like telling them. I pay attention to girls, the ladies and their nails. I don't have mine on right now, which is really sad, but normally I have really bougie nails and I love bougie nails, but if I notice those, I am like, oh girl, I love your nails. Those are fabulous. Love your manicure, whatever. I mean, I just share that stuff. Love your earrings. Where'd you get those shoes? Those type of things. I just feel like I love your style, or your hair looks amazing. Just things like you wear that hairstyle so great. I just think we should be more free giving in our compliments. I don't, why are we saving those? I mean, don't save them for a rainy day. So that's my challenge for you today. Take action on gratitude and think of 3 people that you could text right now. Like, come on, you text fast. I know you do. Your thumbs are like, bah, bah, bah. You're super fast at texting. Text 3 people right now and let them know how you are so grateful for them. And even better, then tell them why. Give them a specific thing on what you're grateful for about them. Okay, let's go into the second G. I got 3 G's to drop on you today. Second G is growth. So gratitude is 1. The second G is growth. These are the super G's, okay? These are the super G's. We have to embrace the growing pains. We must embrace the growing pains. Growing pains might be a little uncomfortable because growth often comes from discomfort. Not always, but on a big portion of the time, our growth, your growth, my growth comes from experiencing discomfort. That is where the magic happens. That is where like all the good things come together. Growth, whether it's personal growth, whether it's physical growth, like you're trying to, go to the gym, build muscle. Like I've been trying to do that for a long time. It's been really hard for me to put on muscle in my life. It always has. And it's come with some discomfort. It's come with some growing pains. It's just, growth is very rarely like easy breezy, free and easy. It rarely is. So growth is a continual process in your life. It is not like from this age to this age, you're in the growing phase. And then from this age to this age, you're perfect. And then this age to this age, you're declining. That's not how it works. Growth is a continual process in your life. It starts in the moment we get here on earth, right? The moment we're born. But as far as like how much we choose to grow and how deep we want to take our growth, that's up to each person, but it is a continual process. It's not like, especially when it comes to your own development, your personal development, it is not like you get to a particular place and then you're like done and you can coast out for the rest of your life. You can totally do that, but you're not going to be continually growing. The only way for you to continually grow is to put yourself in some discomfort from time to time. And sometimes you don't even choose it. Like life just gives it to you, right? So I bet you can think of something that you're like, I didn't sign up for this. But my friend, life happens. Life happens. Embrace it and know that it is growing something inside of you. Also, in the growing process, to embrace those growing pains that I talked about, that growth doesn't have to be perfect. It can be messy. It doesn't have to be like from point A to point B. It doesn't have to be squeaky clean. I mean, growth is a process and it's not meant to be perfect. There's not like a perfect way to do that. So allow your life to expand, allow yourself to grow, and know that it's going to be uncomfortable from time to time. It's going to, have some discomfort, and there's not a perfect way to do it. So I think on my action, I was trying to think, what is my action item going to be on this when we talk about growth? What could I give you as something that you can do right now to put into place and to think about on the growth? And that is, I encourage you to reflect on a moment. Let's just look at this year. Reflect on a moment where you have experienced a lot of growth this year. That would be a really good journal prompt for you, is just to spend some time reflecting on that. Couple stories that I'll tell, personal stories, when in terms of growth and growing pains. Like, this is not a significant one, but I want to emphasize like how growth equals growing pains. So when I first started taking some notes to do this episode, I was thinking, when I thought of growing pains, I immediately went to, oh my God, when I was 15 years old, my body ached so bad. I remember laying in bed at night, because back up, I was a really, as we all are when we start out, a really short, like small, like, I don't know what my height was. I don't even remember, but I just know out of my friends, I was like next to the shortest. And I was uber skinny and just short, just really short. Like, I don't know. I just feel like in all the photos, I look really small. And I was what they called like a late bloomer, right? So I was late to the growth party. And so I was not really, and girls, they tend to grow generally, not obviously not all, because that didn't happen to me, but they develop sometimes faster. They hit, those growing pains a little faster than the guys, the boys, when you're in those like early years. That wasn't the deal for me. I mean, I really wished it was, because it just seemed easier when I looked at those that were already like hitting puberty, and I was like hanging out, waiting for it to happen. I was like, hey, God, when, pick me, please. But then when I was like 15, I hit a growth spurt, and I like started like getting taller. I swear to goodness, I felt like I was laying in bed at night, and I felt like I could feel my legs growing. I was like, oh my God. I mean, just ached. I remember my bones aching. It was weird. So I grew a lot in what I consider a short amount of time, but and then I'm 5'10" at 17. I would say I probably started growing, notice height difference when I was like 14. And then, so what is that, 3 years? It was like, Dad, that's pretty fast. I thought that was fast. And so I was kind of on the growth pattern, I would say, probably, or development pattern physically, that a lot of boys were at that time. Like, the girls seems like sixth, seventh, eighth grade, ninth grade, maybe. And then they were like, that's the height they were the rest of the time. And, they were already like developed, and I definitely wasn't. And so I feel like I was more like on the growing pain side physically of like where the boys were at that time. And so when I was taking notes for this podcast, I was like, oh yes, the growing pains of growing up, but they were physical. They were physical, like laying in bed. Can you relate? I don't know. Will someone please message me, so I'm not the only person sitting here telling the story that went through this, like laying in bed at night and like feeling your arms and legs ache and going, what is going on? And then seeing yourself get taller and taller and taller, and then you're taller than a lot of your girlfriends, and you're like, what is happening? And yeah, so anyways, growing pains are a real thing. So not only in our body, and I'm just using some humor here, I mean, it didn't seem honestly that funny back then, to be real. I just was like, God, please, hello, can I please catch up with all my girlfriends because they look amazing. They look like girls and women, and I'm over here like, like a tomboy, help me out. So anyways, but I'm just trying to make light of that. But if you did experience any of that, let me know, because it was like physically, like at night, I just remember feeling my bones ache. Right. So don't leave me out on the island on that. If someone else experienced that, I'd love to hear from you. That would be really fun. We would be like, we'd be friends. But here's a story on growth when it comes to our own development, on how we go through those growing pains as well. The story that came up to mind, and I'm going to share this with you because I want you to have something to relate to. You might be going through this. This might happen for you in 6 months. Maybe you've already been through it and you'd be like, I know exactly what you're talking about, or something very similar. One of the other growing pains I would say was when I started, the first time I was an entrepreneur and started my business. I started a company called Alliance Management Group, and I started that at 32. And so I want to say I was a year in, somewhere about 12 months in, maybe not the full 12 months, but somewhere about a year in. And, really, I was the only employee starting out. And then, I was in the property management business. So I had 2 small apartment complexes, which together was, one was 40 units, one was 56 units. So that's what I had to start out with on day one, to manage those for somebody. And then I was the only person on payroll. And then that started to grow. So about almost at a year mark, and I was trying to grow it, right? Little things were happening, acquiring smaller management of smaller properties, and things were going on in that way. But by a year there was, I want to say 5 of us. And there was me, I had like a part-time, lady that helped me in the office. I had a property manager, 2 service techs. So that was basically the gist of it. And I was always seeking new business, trying to get new contracts, trying to acquire more management agreements and more contracts. And so I had the opportunity come up, and it included 10 properties, which I was pursuing the contract on those, tried to get those in my portfolio. And I felt, I was ready. Like other than I did not have the staff, obviously, because I had us, but I wanted those 10 properties. Well, that day came, I had that meeting. I think it was like the second meeting we had, and it was a done deal. So he says, all right, I'll do it. Let's go. So I was like, that was music to my ears, right? But then here comes the growing pain. So I walk away out of that meeting, ready. I was like so confident, ready to rock. And I had obviously like a game plan of growth of staff to do that. But when I acquired these 10 properties, these didn't come with employees. So now I have, and then I remember we were sitting there talking, and I was, talking about, we were getting close to the end of the month. And normally you would have, let's say you'd have a 30-day time frame. When I would take on something else, they would generally be, letting go of another company. There's like some transition time, and month end is just like a really clean time to make that transition in that business, in the multifamily business. So for whatever reason, he says, well, I don't want to do it Friday. And so in true Kristi fashion, I said, okay, because I wanted the business. I knew I could figure something out. But let me tell you, the growing pains of acquiring and taking on 10 properties all in one day with my slim staff was such a challenge, but it was such a good challenge. And it also, that growth that I had to go through, number one, just the growth in my belief and thoughts about being able to do this, that I can hire and the right people, put together the team, get all the moving parts in place, and just be ready to rumble. That I'm going to take on 10 properties in one day, and I'm going to make it happen. It's going to go extremely well. It's going to be seamless. Like all of that. I mean, I had to work on my own brain and my own thoughts on that. And then I had to like implement. And so that particular event was a huge growth process. Yes, for me personally, and yes, for my business and my company at the time. And I was able to, when you are in a growth, like when your brain is like lit up, like it's in agreement, like your heart, your brain, your mind, everything's like all cylinders go. When you're like that, it's like, so you're going to find solutions. You're going to find solutions. So I immediately picked up the phone. I remember making phone calls. I was meeting. There's a couple people that I knew I needed to secure them on my team, that I had known before. And I was like, I need this talent on my team, ASAP so that we can be able to, from day one, be able to like run these properties, get it going, get it off the ground, and make it successful. So that was a big growing thing for me as a person, as a business owner, and then just for the whole company, for everybody involved. So much growth, and trust me, it had growing pains. I mean, you want to think that, here's the other thing, and if you are in business or you're hearing this and you're relating to it, that there is always going to be challenges. There's not a book that you open and say, turn to page 33 for how to do X, Y, and Z. You have to be okay with your growing pains, and also trust your gut, trust your instincts, really tap in to your, like, what you feel is the best thing to do in this growth situation, and not be afraid to act, and also not be afraid to make mistakes, because that kind of keeps people frozen. If they're too scared, they don't ever grow because they don't ever try. And so that's a story that I share with especially other business owners when they're like scared of growth, or they're on the verge of something. Like, don't sabotage yourself. Like, just don't sabotage yourself. Your growth in yourself and in your business, or whatever you want to apply it to, it's going to expect some growing pains, like, but you're going to figure it out. Like, it's going to be okay. And it doesn't have to be a perfect process, but growing pains are a real thing. But growth, to not like it, to me, it's just like, I can't imagine not growing, not expanding. I just can't imagine that. I can't imagine life without that. I would be bored to tears. So, that's my little takeaway story for you. And I really encourage you, as your action item, think of this year, because you're here. I mean, I'm recording this, it's dropping on Thanksgiving. I mean, we're almost to the end of the year. I know you can reflect on 2024, and that you can think of one unexpected growth moment that happened for yourself this year. Even if it was just a little tiny step forward, I know you have one. I'd really encourage you to write it down and to journal on that, and then look at like the growing pains that you went through on that. But unexpected growth, sometimes those are the best messengers ever. Okay, let's get on into it on my 3Gs, dropping the 3Gs. The third one is grit, the power of persevering. I can't even say that word. That's a really simple word. The power of persevering. That is, I mean, I know you've heard the word grit. And I know, when I hear grit, here's what I think of. This is the way I describe it. And there's a lot of different ways to explain what is grit. But the grit is like that thing that makes you stick with it. All right. That like just makes you stick with it, that you just don't give up, even when everyone else is giving up. Like the grit is like what shows up in yourself when the shit gets hard. But you're like, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to get through this moment. I'm going to, you see what I'm saying? Like, you know, you're going to get on the other side of it, no matter what. And it's hard to even have that grit about you if you're not willing to show up for your life, for yourself. If you're not willing to show up, then how are you ever going to be able to dig into your grit? You know? So that grit, that power of persevering, that shows up when the outcome is, even when it's uncertain. Like, I don't know how this is going to turn out, but I'm still going for it. I don't know if this idea is going to work, but I'm still going to go for it. Like the story that I just told you about when I had started my first business, Alliance Management Group. Trust me, plenty of days, there were things that took place in business, in growing, in something not working out, in a huge challenge or a problem that came up, that I would go, I don't know how this is going to turn out, but I'm not giving up. I'm like, putting the foot on the gas. And I think you have to have that element of grit to really get through some of these moments that we sometimes unexpectedly fall into. Other times, like, we march forward knowing this is going to require some grit. This is going to like make me have to dig deep. So it's about showing up even when you don't know what the outcome is going to be. It's also another way I like to describe it. It's an inner drive in you, like deep in your belly, that gets you to push through. It gets you to push through. I don't know, a couple fun stories when I was thinking about grit. Well, I was like, we sometimes have to show up and have that perseverance in our everyday life. And I thought, yeah, for me, that's called laundry. That is called doing the freaking laundry. I hate it. If you follow me on, I think especially Instagram, on my stories, and I just like me and laundry. I try, and it's been like that my whole life. Like I try, I just don't like it. I mean, I just don't have a good relationship with laundry. It's hard. I get started and then, it hangs out in the dryer for days, or it might make it into a basket, but it doesn't make it to the hangers. You see what I'm saying? And I was thinking, I'm like, yeah, my grit, personally, like in everyday life, it's me pushing through to like do the laundry, just finish it. I mean, there's also times I just send it out, have them pick it up on my front porch, and it comes back so beautifully folded and gorgeous that is just like, oh, I feel loved when I do that for myself. But the laundry situation is an everyday grit factor for me. So I'm sure you can relate. You probably have some grit factor for yourself that's like a mundane thing that we just have to do in life. But you're like, this is flipping hard. And I always am like, have to push through to get it done. So little side note, mine is laundry. I'd love to know what yours is. You can just email me. I'd love to know. I love to know this kind of stuff about you guys. I love it when I get like replies or emails or even comments of just the things that were like, she doesn't want to know that. No, I do want to know that. I I really want to know that. So let me know, what's your everyday thing. But grit, I guess, I probably segued into that a little bit when I was telling you my previous story of when I had started my first business, Alliance Management Group. we'll just take that story of that growth, those growing pains of that particular story of taking on those 10 properties and figuring out how to like staff up, get the right people in the right places, all the operational things to make that happen. That was a huge growth bump in a short amount of time, in like a week. So the grit, the power to persevere, the power to continue to push through, to show up, even when like I had said earlier, you don't know what the outcome's going to be, but you're not giving up. You're going. That story, a lot. I mean, that was a real gritty moment. And it wasn't just a moment, it was weeks. It took a while to get that going and flowing where everything was seamless. I had to, it required me. That's the other thing. Like when things get gritty, like it's going to require you, when I talked about showing up, like showing up and doing it. Like I personally, dug in. I was already like hands-on, like working all the time, but that meant I had to get to all 10 properties. I was there. I was on the road all week, visiting the sites, training the people, answering the questions, going and looking at problems with my own eyes, not just letting someone relay that to me because it was new, because, I was personally accountable. So until I had a comfort level with the new people that I'd hired, with the new assets that we were managing, and not being familiar with that particular asset, like the grit required me to be there, to be present, to show up, to do the work. And it requires a lot. So when you're going to dig in and you're going to persevere through something, like you just go all in. You just have to. I mean, you can't half-ass grittiness. You just can't. I mean, you're either in it or you're not. So it's really, grit is like is really anything that you've overcome, that you've really had to like dig in. That inner drive showed up. You didn't have like a lot of, you don't, when you have to like just get in, like dig into that inner power of yourself, you don't always have like, what am I trying to say? The outward appearances that that your decision, that's going to give you the result that you want, right? You don't always have that immediate answer. So the power to persevere, that is a big one. That is a big one for success and to thrive in your life. And again, I'm not talking like just here, like closing out the end of the year. I'm talking every day, like all year round, we can pull from these 3Gs, the 3Gs. Okay. So here's the last thing. So when it comes to an action item for grit, so like I was like, okay, well, what can I share with my listeners on what they could do? I'm going to call it like a mini grit challenge. Like, what is that going to be? Well, I want to encourage you to do something this week, in the next week, that requires you to really push through, that you're in discomfort and you've got to move through that. And that could be something like, maybe it's just a challenging, tough conversation that you need to have with someone. Maybe it's a long overdue project at work that every time that reminder pops up on your computer, when you sit down every morning, you just snooze it because you're like not ready to deal with it. It's going to be too hard. It's going to be too big of a project. I don't want. Quit putting it off. Finish up a long overdue project. So whatever that is for you, I want you to think of one thing that's going to require you to push through some discomfort. It might be having to do with your health and wellness. It might be that I know that I need to get on a schedule to move my body. And if you're not doing it at all, let's go for 2 days a week. Let's go for 2 or 3 days a week. Let's get walking. Let's get our body moving. So that's going to be a little uncomfortable because maybe you're going to have to wake up earlier, or maybe you're going to have to do it in the middle of your day where you eat lunch and then you wait a little bit and then you go for a walk. So you're not going to get the lounging time that you would normally get in the middle of your day. So it's not going to, you don't get as much free time. I mean, I think I'd encourage you, like, you can push through that. Okay. You can push through that. So if you're wanting to fine tune something like that, this next week, look at your next week and decide, hey, I need to start moving my body more, that I'm not, and I know the benefits if I do. I just need to get going. And I just like, I've got to push through. It's always when we start something, like we've got the work project we keep putting off, the workouts that we know, or even the walks that we know we need to go on that we're not, the conversations that we need to have that we're putting off. Like, pick one. I know you've got something. I do this all the time. I pick stuff all the time. I'm like, okay, what do I got? What do I got that I'm just like pushing to the side? Okay, besides my laundry. We don't really know if that's ever going to get fixed, but I do that often. Like, what is it? What is it that I'm like pushing over here, filing away, a work project that I know I need to dive in, get this done, like the person I need to talk to. Like, I don't let things, once I decide and it comes to once I'm aware that I'm need to make a change or I'm not doing it, because sometimes we're just not aware. I mean, that's very possible. Like, we're not aware that we need to have a conversation. We're not aware that we need to change a habit or something, right? But once that awareness hits, like if you're hearing the little, like that little voice inside, you need to pay attention to that. So pick something in this next week and do it. Push through, do it, finish it, have the conversation, go to the gym, get outside, take the walk, whatever it is. Pick your action for the mini grit challenge. You got 1 week. All right. Let's get this done. All right. So I've shared with you my 3Gs. And really, here's what I want you to do too. These 3Gs, these are like tools in your toolbox for your success. Tools in your toolbox so you thrive in your life. That's how you look at that. All right. Your 3Gs. Your gratitude, your growth, and your grit. Okay, well, I'm going to let you go in case you have listened to this on Thanksgiving or the day after. You're probably still like in a turkey coma. So let's get up, let's move. I know after I have Thanksgiving dinner, all I want to do is go for a walk. And so I can feel a little better after I get moving around. Okay, well, thanks you guys for being here. It's been so fun. I know that the 3Gs, that it's going to bring so much value to your life. I'm so glad you heard this message, and I will see you next week. I want to thank you for tuning in today to the podcast, and I hope you've enjoyed the conversation and all the info that's been shared today. And I hope you've come away with a few ideas on how to make the most out of it for your life. If you loved this episode, be sure to share it with your friends and family. And also make sure you subscribe to the podcast and tap that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Also, it would mean the absolute world to me if you would leave a podcast review. So until next time, my friend, keep flourishing and thriving and live your life to the